Welcome to Philly Coco Presents Side Project Spotlight, episode 73. This is a developer's journey to making cool stuff. I'm Kotaro.
I'm Steve.
And I'm Aaron.
And we are Philly Coco, a Philadelphia-based Coco Heads community focused on Apple development that primarily, but not exclusively, means iOS, Mac, tvOS, watchOS, and visionOS development. Philly Coco's true desire is to take you higher on your own developer journey. Whew. All right.
Good one.
All right. We're
Somebody's still
through
awake.
the intro, which is
awake.
great.
And I have most of my voice back. So
yes,
I will attempt to participate today.
The gang is all back here.
Another 7 p.m. episode.
Well, if we tried to do this,
we're recording.
Yeah, if we tried to do this at our normal time, I mean, I wasn't able to speak really.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
now it's mostly back. So
sure.
We got a spicy episode too, potentially.
Potentially, it's at least for one of the topics, maybe two, but one of the topics.
Yeah.
But our first topic to be discussing is basically, Steve, I need to find my notes. Where'd they go?
Well, the first thing I have is that Kotaro is returning to game jams.
Yes. So
big news.
Philly Game Mechanics has announced a 2-week game jam. Maybe last when was it? Like a few days ago. So as of this recording. So the theme of the game jam is called Fortune. And so right now I don't want to necessarily involve anybody just yet. I want to do baby steps, but fundamentally because I want to learn, kind of want to push myself and kind of learn two things: pixel art and Godot game engine. It's I've said this in the past. I feel like for me, it's like a game engine that reminds me a lot of Unity in its younger heyday when it was just an up and coming game engine. And with my current, sort of frustrations with the current state of Unity and sort of the lack of trust that it's going to go anywhere in any significant way, it's a good time to pivot and try out a new game engine. And Godot is not without its own, warts and pain points, but it's also so young that it's relatively straightforward to pick up and learn and sort of grow with it. So I like the fact that it's also free and open source, and it is very flexible to deploy to pretty much majority of all the platforms you want to deploy to.
Making me want to try out making a game, like maybe a Frogger game where you're
well, yeah. So I'm not going to do anything crazy. Like I'm not going to make a JRPG.
Oh, I know. I want to recreate one of my favorite games from Atari when I was a really tiny child. It was like that tank game. Remember that tank game where you had the two little pixels that shot smaller pixels at each other?
I'm trying to remember the name of that game. It was
called Tank. Might have been called Tank. I don't know. Maybe
because I'm trying not to think of like the Tron game, with the tank level, which was
I think this is it right here. I'll bring it up.
Make sure you add it in the notes.
I think this was it. The Tank video game.
Tank. Wow, it is literally called Tank by SNK. That's hilarious. Yeah, I think that's it.
This is it.
Okay.
And
okay, I'm gonna make something a little more complicated than that. I'm thinking more like an endless, because the theme is fortune. Clearly, the idea is to collect coins, and maybe make like a roguelike game. Is it roguelike or roguelite? I think it's roguelite, right?
Or like roguelike, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
They're both. They're two different categories.
Really?
Okay, so the one where you die repeatedly and come back and like you gain something from it or something. It's basically that game. It's like so my goal is like to build a mechanic so that when you die, so it's basically a platformer that you're going vertically up. It's a mobile game that you will just bounce platform to platform and just collect as many coins as you can. The more coins you collect, the more power-ups you'll get. And so maybe one that like accelerates you or slow down time or something, whatever I have time to add. Or something
this sounds way more advanced than I'd be able to do in a game jam.
Well, in a 2-week game jam, yeah, it's even way more advanced. So I need to get the basic mechanics first.
Where is this advertised?
Oh, this is on their Discord. So you would have to join their Discord, which is free. So Philly Game Mechanics Discord.
I've been trying to avoid Discord for years.
Yeah, I'm not I'm a like a casual in terms of like visiting that Discord in general, but I just happened to be on that channel when I saw it announced, and I was like, you know what, I need to like motivate myself to do something. I need a project, so I figured this is a great opportunity. I was already reading up a lot of tutorials, getting familiar with the engine, especially now that it's actually a really good time to pick up Godot because they just released a very hotly anticipated 4.3 release, which kind of um, brings in a lot of new features like an upgraded parallax layer system, so you can easily do parallax effects,
That's cool.
a better 3D rendering engine, a better layout in general, a layout system. I wouldn't call it system, but like a better way to lay out stuff from the viewport. A few more programming features, actually a way to offscape your code when you export it out, better physics support, just a whole ton of like little micro things that are just like that help make the feeling and the experience of using the engine a lot better. And it's a very lightweight package to download. So honestly, if you are just starting out trying to make a game, I couldn't recommend. I mean, I could recommend better engines from an experiential standpoint. You might like if you're not a programmer, maybe, but you're okay with still making a 2D game. Maybe Game Maker might be
Oh
a
yeah.
better solution for you. RPG Maker, a few other game engines
But this is
would
like a general
be.
purpose game engine.
Yeah, it's a fair assessment to call it almost like the Blender of game engines. So if you know Blender or the GIMP, maybe a little better
GIMP.
than GIMP. GIMP is a little bit
GIMP,
has
the
a little bit of a
photo
bad rep,
editor,
but
the image editor.
was that
GIMP, the image editor.
yeah, but maybe that's a bad because like most
Remember we
people
used to
like
have X11 installed in OS 10.
yes, I
I used
remember
to
that
run GIMP
you had
and
to
and
I
Open
think you needed
Office.
it to run GIMP,
Yeah, you
right?
did, but it used to be like easy to install, right? Like it came
Yeah,
with it. And I
yeah.
used to run
So
GIMP and Open Office. And I don't know, can you still do X11 in OS 10 or Mac OS now?
I assume you can do some version
Mm-hmm.
of it.
Haven't done it in years,
Uh,
but I used to. Used to
Actually, if
run
you click
those.
on the download latest link, um, it will take you to a page where you can have two choices.
Oh, is it
One of
.NET?
them being like .NET support. So I think it's like Mono, utilizing Mono in the background. But like
I mean, I don't think there's
you can
mono
code
anymore.
it.
Oh, it
You don't
just
need to do
downloaded.
that.
I clicked it, and it's
Oh my
downloading.
goodness. All right, but there is some parts of it that is like it's hit or miss in terms of whether you like it because it is very it stays within its own world, so to speak, for lack of a better word. Oh, you have to download. Do you have
Well,
download
what I'm saying is,
.NET?
mono. I
Oh, it
think
does use .NET. Oh, how about that?
yeah, because
Okay,
I thought
you
mono.
got it.
I think Microsoft took over mono or something. Anyway,
Mhm.
everything's just .NET now. Is what I'm saying. It's just
All
one
right,
SDK called .NET, and it runs
perfect.
cross-platform, and apparently up to version 8. So,
Oh,
which
okay.
is
So,
I have not
which
used this version yet.
is that a how? Where are we at with .NET in general? I haven't
Well,
touched on
.NET
.NET
8
8.
is the latest thing, right? There's the
Mhm.
cross-platform thing with all the new stuff. .NET
Very nice.
Framework only goes up to I think 4.9, maybe 4.8 something, and
Mhm.
that's like the Windows only one. And so like
Mhm.
they went ahead and they re-implemented the .NET Framework stuff that you need to do .NET applications of different kinds,
Mhm.
and that became and then they unified it under the same brand. So it used to be
Okay.
like .NET Core was the implementation was cross-platform, and now they just renamed everything .NET. So if you can run on Windows, you can run on everything else. It's just that it doesn't have exactly the same stuff in it as .NET Framework. So and you have different kinds of ways of building it and stuff like that. So it's .NET Framework is the older stuff for Windows only,
Mhm.
and then .NET normal .NET 8.0. That's the stuff you'd use. You want to build something cross-platform for
Is
anything like
that
web or mobile or anything. You can there's a ways of
what?
building all kinds of apps.
Right. So when you're building like let's say I want to build a native Mac app in .NET.
I think
How does that? Does it have its like version? I forgot there was like web form. There was back in the day it was web forms. Then they switched to like WPF or something like that. Is there like a
I
framework?
think it's is it
Is it
Maui? Is that just
Maui?
they have a whole bunch of different
Yeah, like
UI
because
things.
Maui's is like the successor to like Xamarin, right? or
I think
am
so.
I wrong on that?
No, I think that's right. I can't keep up with all the brand name changes.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's Maui, right? That
Mm-hmm.
they want to use.
I know Maui is the new hotness. I don't know if it's like it is what Xamarin was, um, just relabeled, or it's something completely new.
Yeah, this is
But
the multi-platform UI. So if anything is going to work on macOS, it would be this. It says Android, macOS, Windows, iOS
Mhm.
from a shared
Okay.
C# code base. I haven't actually tried this, at least not for a long time. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, there. If you learn to use Godot with .NET,
Mhm. Yeah.
you're going to be able to do more than just Godot. If you
So
learn
Yeah.
any C#.
what version are you using, Kotaro?
I'm gonna use. What are you talking about for? I'm
Yeah, for
gonna
your
just use
project.
GD script.
Which one
GD
is
script.
more? Which one's more expressive? Like which one's better supported right now, or is there no difference?
It's a good question. I think at the heart of it, like most people recommend using GD script. As weird as that's gonna sound, one of the things that some like a fair amount of developers might try to do, if especially if they're trying to build like cross-platform development, is put all their cross-platform code. So maybe like you
Right.
can do it in C++, C sharp, Swift, even if you wanted to, Rust, whatever, and just create what they call like a GD extension, and just expose those that they expose the functionalities that way, and then still make it compatible with GD script in general. Because I think GD script is much
Mhm.
more lightweight in general, and
Right.
I think I don't know if it's just more of a principle thing, but like they recommend that over say .NET that has traditional like garbage collection issues that are permeate within a lot of Unity apps.
Oh,
It's
really?
just it's not so much probably like Unity's fault, or the fact that it's garbage collection. It's just like, when you're a game developer, your priority is not is not managing your garbage collecting right. So we're do a lot
Just
of horrible things, and we won't go back to fix them because the code is like really really sloppy.
build it on Swift, automatic reference
well,
counting.
you could, yeah, you actually could. No, that's actually not that is actually an option. It's actually kind of
Somebody
funny.
actually
You can
did
actually
bindings for
build
Swift.
there is a way to do it so that you can build a Godot game engine or Vision Pro. You build it in Godot, you export it. Like somehow there's a binding to a project for that which you can actually like have it running in Vision OS. It's pretty trippy. Like I'll make a modification in the Godot engine, like move a platform or something, and you'll save it and it'll update in the Xcode project. I forgot if it was real time or not, but either way, it like felt real time. It was like pretty trippy to watch.
Here's a
You know,
there's a Swift Godot.
Godot.
Is
Yeah,
this it? This is like bindings for Swift.
I don't know if it's done by the same guy that made Mono, because the guy that made
Yeah.
Mono,
Miguel de
yeah,
Casa.
yeah,
That's why
he's
I'm
the
looking
guy.
at, and it's being heavily maintained because it's 5 hours ago there was a
Yeah,
release. So
yeah,
this might be what you're thinking of. It allows you
yeah.
to build an
This,
extension that can be added to an existing Godot project where your code is running services of the game engine, or used as an API with Swift Godot Kit to embeds Godot as an application that is driven directly from Swift. That's
yes,
interesting. I'm going to put this in
yeah,
the show notes.
yeah. I haven't really played around with it much, but go ahead,
So
Aaron.
you're going to use that for your project, or what platform are you
No.
targeting?
I have to. I have baby steps. Baby steps.
Yeah, that's too much for one project.
Like I only have so much limited time. Even with the 2 weeks, I only have like really like a small set. Like maybe
Yeah,
like
2 weeks
borderline. Like
minus.
if I'm lucky, maybe like
Yeah,
12 hours total
yeah, right.
to work
Exactly.
on it. So I have to like put on my like half a day game jam mind and be like, okay, what can I like get? What can I achieve with this like one, like a limited amount of time, like concentrated time. I mean, you
This
can
is
get a lot
exciting.
done, but yeah,
This
we'll
I'm
is
sure
see where
that'll
that
be
goes.
this
a
is like
future meetup show and tell.
yeah.
Yes, for sure.
Plus,
For sure.
this feels like the before times. I was just saying this to somebody. I was at Broken Goblet, the brewery, the other day, and I was talking to the bartender, and I was like, it feels like like 2018 again. There's just so many shows happening, like every weekend now, middle of the week, just all the time. all my musician friends are working all the time. And she's like, yeah, same. Yeah, I had the same thought. I think everybody's having that thought. It's like,
Mhm.
yeah, we probably had that thought the last couple years to different sense, but like this summer has felt like, yeah, like 2019 summer, 2018 summer, just tons of stuff. And so now we got Kotaro returning to game jams. So we know that the final embers of the burning dumpster fire that was the pandemic is now going out because Kotaro is returning to game jams. So congratulations, everybody. We're through it. Finally.
Stress trying to. Okay. Then like I've only like build the project, start to get repo, like I'm committed as far as that.
You don't have like 10 people on your team?
Not yet.
Not this time. Only because selfishly I want to at least prove that I can still build something.
Oh, he's doing solo?
I don't know if I want to solo. I want to get as far as I can first. I don't know. Like if you want to help out, great. But I don't know if I want to put that pressure on anybody else but myself at this point.
Oh, I thought you were going to go. You were going for the Sigma male of game jam developers.
No.
Go it alone.
It's not even that. It's like it's such a limited time. Like even I was like unsure about whether I was going to do it when I saw the announcement. I was like, you know what? If I don't do it, then I'll never do it. So
that's right.
I need to at least be like, if you can't prove you can do this by yourself, at least for one of them, like who's going to follow? Who's going to like tag along?
What's the deadline?
The 28th.
When did it start? Now?
It started like 2 days ago, I think.
How far have you gotten in 2 days? You create a repo?
Well, I have as far as like the idea, and sort of like where, and just the basic mechanic. I have like a sample code that I'm like pretty much going to rip off majority of it. Nice. Just so I can learn the sort of like the mechanic. The only thing that's new probably would be the fact that I'm doing it in a pixel style. So I might like riff off some of what exists and sort of just create my own version of the pixel character. What I'll probably do is take some of Bracky's work, Bracky, I think his name is Bracky, and like make it a little more, but like then create like an astronaut or something. So basically, think of it like, how like there's like sample code out there, but of like you jumping, like you have like this character that like jumps, like constantly is like going up a vertical, like endless vertical tunnel of some kind.
Yeah, I think I had that nightmare.
Yeah, but in this case, like, but if you fall like off the platform, or you don't fall on the right platform, you just die. I kind of want to do something like that, where like maybe in the beginning you have lots of platforms, but then as you go further up, like the platforms get smaller, but the more coins you collect until finally, like you just die for whatever reason. Like I haven't quite figured the mechanic yet.
It's like a Metroid / Mario mechanic there.
Yeah, like a pseudo, like, okay, as I go up more, I'm collecting more, my score gets higher, but then I die, but then like I can have like something that if I have enough coins, maybe I can continue and then just
and it's generating the level, right? Because it's roguelite.
It's randomly generating level. Yeah,
whatever.
Maybe I'll do it so that like the platforms get thinner or smaller, and like maybe they start to move a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have to figure out ways to like make it harder.
Keep it simple. You got to get something simple working first. Then you can.
Yeah, agreed.
Crazy. Like the core mechanic. You just need the core mechanic. Like, okay, I'm gonna jump on platforms, and they're gonna get smaller, and I got to collect coins, and they're gonna get more or less or something. Like, pick something simple like that, and work with that first. The mechanic. That's my suggestion. Then once you got that kind of working, you're like, okay, and then we can start adding in flavor around that core mechanics. That way, you're not like building tons of different kinds of mechanics. For
Steve, man, I'm all about that juiciness. I gotta make it. Gotta add the flavor before I add the meat.
What? No, you gotta do the other way, man. You gotta marinate the meat in the. I don't know. Our metaphor is falling apart here.
I used to joke with an old colleague of mine. I was like, because he would build the APIs for like, so we would work on apps together at work, just prototypes at that time, and I would joke and like, come on, dude, you're the meat. You're the meat and I'm the sizzle. Okay. I'm just like, you're making the API. You're doing the real work here. And I'm just making the pretty UI that just ingests your work and outputs it out. that's my role in it. So sizzle and steak.
Nice. I like this. So,
But
do you have a working name, code name for your project yet?
the only code name is the theme itself, so Fortune. But
Fortune.
yeah, maybe what's hilarious? Like I
Not
had a thought.
4chan.
Not
Fortune
4chan.
as in money.
Let's not do that one.
No,
Although
stay away from that one.
the metaphor would be hilarious, but
Yeah, no, you do not want those people
no.
learning of your existence.
But one thing that I was doing was like because the theme was fortune, like part of me was thinking it would be hilarious if I would just take all these horrible metaphors as I collect all the coins to have like all the horrible memes of like, it's like dollar make me holla, just like just
have
the
those
characters would just
have those gifs pop out like
just absurd sounds of just like woo making money,
like that,
money
like
maker,
like Mortal Kombat
cash, give me that
Remember?
money.
Yeah, man, we had like
get like progressively greedier, that's actually that's
at the very end at the very end you get to meet Scrooge McDuck, who then pushes you off the edge and takes your money.
Give me your money. Yes.
Actually, Scrooge is not a bad guy, so that's kind of a character assassination there. That idea.
I mean,
so it can't really be Scrooge anyway.
I mean, it'd just be funny just to have it. So like, it would be like the trajectory to greed, right? So like, the more money you make, the more like obnoxious your character gets. So like, maybe you start as like, oh, finally, and then you'll be like, yeah, all right, I'm moving on up, and then you'll just be like, oh yeah, and the song would like kick in, like
you're you start out as the main character from Fight Club, you turn into Tyler Durden by the end.
Yeah, it turns into like a pseudo Breaking Bad or something like that. It's like I am the danger. It's like ridiculous lines after lines. It's just like it just gets really bad, as he starts pulling Ric Flair lines, like woo.
Are you gonna record all those lines yourself?
That's
no way. He's gonna use an AI tool. What's that one? There's that one website that actually makes voices pretty well.
See now you're actually having me think about it. Like
no, I think you should consider it because
me silenced in that idea. I'm like, would that make a hilarious idea to like? The problem with
voices, some of them are funny.
Processing. The problem is like the processing. It takes time, right? So you can't do that real time. You would have to do that.
There's no reason to do that real time. You would just like
you just pre-record a bunch of things
and then just
MP3s. Or whatever.
I could.
I need to make sure. What is that thing called? What is that voice thing called?
11 Labs or something.
Yes, 11 Labs. I played with them. You can actually make some short stuff for free on their website to start with.
That's the main thing with all these AI things. How much you have to pay for them?
Yeah.
So
but,
wait, how many can you make before they start charging you? Or is it like I don't
know. I ran out of free. I ran out of free stuff real fast.
Is it per token or is it? I forgot the term, but is it like per? Is it token that they? I know like OpenAI like charges you like per quote unquote token. I forgot the terminology for it.
Oh wow, it's coming right out of my speakers here.
Do you think that got recorded?
I don't know, but that's pretty funny.
Would be hilarious.
But yeah, it's you should try this out because then you could put all your little clips in here and find some weird voices, funny voices.
Well, is there one that is like an 8-bit sounding voice?
You got 10 minutes of.
I don't know. This is the problem because I went around playing with these ones. I wanted to try to hear what they all said, and by the time I got through even some of the voices, like I was out of free minutes. And I was like, I'm just trying to sample your voices, man. I don't know what they sound like.
Is it based on the account? Like if you have an email account, if you sign up with an email and like you can just use that one email, and then when you find the voice you want, then switch to a new sign up with a new email and do it that way.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, I mean, I'm
sorry.
Anyway.
I'm sorry. Am I like spoiling the? Am I like making a bad suggestion?
No, but if you want, what I'm just saying is, if you want voices, since you're in a game jam, you need to prioritize speed. These tools are useful for that. You're not even looking for you're not trying to like impersonate anybody or something. You're just trying to make funny voices, and maybe one of these tools can do it. And that way you're not
10 minutes. It's probably enough. Assuming you know what voice you want to go with. But
I want to do like if there's a way. If there is there a parameter or is that? I'm sorry, parameter is not the right word. Is there an 8-bit sounding voice in there. Like
you can pay $5 and get 30,000 credits, which is like 30 minutes
30
text to
minutes.
speech for a month. That's plenty. If you need more than 10 minutes,
that is plenty. Oh, that would be hilarious.
You do voice cloning for
and
$11.
you can export them as like WAV or MP3 files.
As something, obviously. I don't know what they come out as.
Because that's really what I would need them to do. But I'm not sure if they can, if I can export them, then
I mean you can get them as something. Yeah. I don't know what format they come out in.
Because I just love this idea. Like,
right, no commercial use from the free plan. So
yeah, well, you're not doing commercials.
Not selling this game.
Here you go. Here's audio quality. It's 128, 44 kilohertz. Probably like a wave or something.
Okay.
It says, it doesn't say what container format it is, but it's probably like a wave format, something like that.
Yeah, I would imagine. Although it would make more sense for them if they just gave you like the crappiest version, so like an MP3 of some kind, like a low res, for the free version.
Maybe, right? I don't know, but you don't even have to attribute them. You pay $5, you don't even have to do an attribution.
I don't want to pay money.
Just do it for free, and then put them in their credits or whatever they need.
Anyway, that's the cost.
I mean, yeah, they want attribution.
No, I might as well just do it myself and just come up with a way to modulate my voice.
Just use a tool, get it done faster, or mess around with your voice, whatever. You can also get something that does the voice modulation, make you sound funny, whatever those that thing's called.
Actually, you can actually do that already in Godot, where you can actually modulate the pitch and refine it. Actually, that's one of the things about 4.3 is like there are ways, like you used to need an extension with Fmod to do something called Fmod to do a lot of like funky modulations and audio, like programmed audio layering, I think, for lack of a better word.
Mm-hmm.
My audio engineer is probably gonna, the one I know is probably just gonna kill me. It's like, it does more than that, but like like to do like simple layered bits and modifications of audio, I could probably just do it in the game engine, which is another reason to like explore that opportunity. But maybe, like you said, keep it in scope, only do the bare minimum. So what I'm gonna do, because the other thing about game jam games that people don't realize is that they're like vertical slice to the extreme. So you really only care about maybe like tops 5 minutes of gameplay. Like you want the people to understand your game at its root level, but nobody's going to stick around playing with your game for more than 5 minutes because they have to like play with other people's games during the presentation. And a lot of times people just in general just don't want to play with your game without like, because sometimes like people will make 3 or 4 levels and they all go to waste because like nobody can beat the first one or nobody wants to bother.
Yeah.
So they might go, oh, that's cute. And then they move on and you just like all that time wasted making all those levels.
Procedurally generated levels never end.
Not even that's the sad part. Like half the time it's like they're really like good levels that are done.
They're just bespoke levels no one gets through. Like that Mario Maker. Remember the Mario Maker competitions where people made these crazy levels no one can get through?
Like imagine making like very bespoke, very specific, hard as heck Mario Maker levels. Like let's say even 4 levels. It'd be a miracle to do 3 and watch like 90% of the people testing your game like not even get past 1. And that's your tutorial level, right?
I like this idea. I like this fortune idea. I'm excited.
Yes, I'm excited now.
And now that you've announced it,
just the plain lunacy. Now, and I have to
when
do
is
it
this
now.
due?
The 28th. So right now we're in August. I have 8 days.
This podcast is releasing on the 26th. So if you're listening to this when we release it, Kotaro only has 2 days left. 3 counting kids, including today. Depends on when it's due on the 28th. To do like
the end of the so like 7 p.m. I think, but
so like
they're kind of loosey goosey because I'm looking at like the submission date is actually the 29th, so I might be able to like skirt those rules a little bit.
I think somebody's calling out sick that week, the next couple days.
I
I gotta finish. I got the game jams.
I got the jam. Yeah, I got the jammies. That's what I got.
I got the game. I get the game jammies. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's that. So right now, that's what I'm trying to do. Again, like one of the things that people have to understand is like I've tried to do 50 game jams in my game jam lifestyle.
That's a lot of game jams.
I've only and Aaron can attest to this. Like you only do like especially if you don't have like a really strong commitment of if you're working for a team, for example, you might only accomplish like you'd be lucky to accomplish half of those if even like a quarter of those games.
Keep it small, man. Whatever you think you want to do, just keep making that scope smaller and smaller and smaller until you feel like there's not enough here.
There'll be no sound,
and that's when you'll have enough.
Yeah, I've never attempted one by myself, so
yeah, me either. I feel like my attempt.
I'm still open to the idea of like including team members, but I don't expect.
I'm waiting for the invite.
I don't think I made anything that's even resembles a game since I was writing in Quick Basic or something. I think that's the last time I wrote like a game, something like that. That was many years ago.
I'm trying to remember when our last game jam we did together, Kotaro. I don't know. It must have been like 5 years ago or more.
Yeah, that was pre COVID days for sure, and even probably later earlier than that, because
this is a sign of return the good time. Return the good times. We're back.
Let's hope so.
We're back, baby.
So. I mean, I don't know what particularly, aside from like the fact that Godot 4.3 came out, so that was like the swift kick in the butt to be like, you're going to do it, like, this is a good time to do it, to really like test that framework.
Well, I guess we'll be looking out for your game. It's going to be demoed, displayed. How are you going to access? How are you going to see it?
It'll be probably on like, I'm not sure like how Discord for sure, but I think I would have to like have a test flight build that people can access through like.
It's going to be on iOS.
Vision.
Yeah, iOS. I mean, I'm sure like it would be good to try to test it on Android to see like how the Android build would work. And
too big of a scope. Too big.
I know. It's like for me right now, strictly iOS, but particularly to do live demos, because the thing that
on your teeny tiny little SE phone,
my 13 mini, sir. 12.
Oh, that's so small. Right. It's so small.
Yeah, I just recently got a work test phone, and I'm like, this thing is huge.
Yeah, all of them are bigger. There are no small phones anymore.
Yeah. So, but yeah, we'll find out. Oh, one way for sure whether I finish is side project Saturday is on the 31st. So, right? No, I could be wrong. So, if you want to see a live demo of the game, just come to the Willow Grove Community Center, 10 to 2, and we'll play around and see how well I did. Maybe I'll even make improvements as we speak, as we play test it. So,
nice, sounds good.
And again, this is one thing where I really doubt that I'm going to do anything more than what I make from this particular game jam. But the whole point is like learning is part of this process of like trying to like develop an understanding of like how this platform works. How it works for mobile, which not necessarily what I intend for, but it's also like an interesting idea.
Yeah.
And then, just see how it goes.
How are you looking at your time management with a full-time job and family commitments and stuff? Like, how do you do that? Do you time block? Do you like, get up really early? Like, what do you do?
Maybe a little bit of both, to be honest. So I'm trying to I'm doing a lot of sketching on the way to work on the bus, just to and then I'm like sort of like writing in my notes of like, okay, how much time do I think I'm gonna have? for today.
Yeah.
And then trying to figure out like, and then, you know, and being realistic about it. Like that's the one thing about doing when you do game jams, you kind of a lot of it, like to do it successfully is in a way an art of like time management. Like
Yes.
it is, if you don't think you can do it or you don't have the time to do it, and that's partially why when I build these sort of like teams or like, all right, like we form these teams, like half the time I'm like, it's because I don't have the time to do it myself. So I need a team to build. And you know, you start building like relationships with a lot of people that you can like know that like you can depend on. Like Aaron has been like with me in like a lot of the game jams because, you know, I can depend on him. You know, Alex Cole, who is a phenomenal audio guy, I could depend on him. Like
Yeah, he's the guy yelling right now at us.
Yeah, he would be the guy yelling at me for sure.
Yeah.
It's like, what? You don't know nothing. You don't know nothing about that mod. I mean, he doesn't say it in that voice. He's actually quite a wonderful, nice guy, and fantastic game jam companion. I don't know how to describe it. Like
cool
colleague. Shout out to you, Alex. Daniel actually was also helped out a lot for some of these game jams.
Oh yeah, Daniel with the giant laptop.
Yes, Daniel with the big
with the
he's actually really
like
good.
The lights would dim when he plugged it in.
Yes,
yeah.
Holy cow! That I talk about extra. What was the yeah? So there's a lot of people that you can like. You start to form like teams that you can kind of like go, hey, you know. And then you mix and match. So sometimes you have somebody that's like really green, but like really eager. And that's actually really good because they produce like phenomenal work. Like they go hard on the extra. And then, so like, and then you can integrate their work in ways that you didn't think you could. So, and then, you know, sometimes you have a lot of people that just, you know, can only contribute like the sound bits. So I remember when I made a game jam about somebody taking a trip from, it was an 8-bit game or like a pixel style game of somebody on their journey from Philadelphia to Germany to Hamburger, Germany.
Wow.
And halfway across halfway into the game, they have to like cross the ocean. But in order to cross the ocean, they have to surf David Hasselhoff.
Hit Hasselhoff?
Yeah. Nice. So like the Baywatch version of him.
Yeah.
So you're surfing him, like trying to like jump over these business sharks. Trying to steal your money.
Very nice.
And then afterwards, like they like the guy just contributed, the one bit that he contributed was like a David Hass line where he says, "Go live your dream." And that was like a peak moment in that whole game because like it was the most hilarious part. Or like one of the more hilarious parts of it. There were a lot of moments of that game that was hilarious.
I like it. I like it.
But yeah, so again, we'll see.
Well, this has been the bulk of the episode, so I guess we're not going to get to the one topic we were going to talk about today, but we still have at least one other thing we could talk about before we wrap it up.
Sure. All right. So this might be the spicy one, right?
We did promise potential for spice.
Yes. So
and that's going to be the Procreate news. Procreate has vowed to never implement generative AI.
Did they say never? Was never in that statement?
Did they? Or? Maybe they didn't say never. They said they weren't going to do it. They weren't doing it yet. Let's find out. Yeah. Let's find out. I have the link to. Well, I have a link to two things. They have a link to their website, which doesn't really say much, but it says AI is not our future. Creativity is made, not generated. I'm reading from the website now.
Yeah.
Generative AI is ripping the humanity out of things. These are not my words, Procreate words. Built on a foundation of theft. Again, I'm not saying this. Procreate's saying this. Quote, the technology is steering us toward a barren future. Again, the Terminator future they're describing is not what we necessarily... No, they basically say that they think that there's merit. Look, they say explicitly they think machine learning is compelling with a lot of merit, but they believe the path that generative AI is on is wrong for us. We're here for the humans. We're not chasing technology that is a moral threat, not mortal threat. That's at least a little better. A moral threat to our greatest jewel, human creativity. In this technological rush, this might make us an exception or seem at risk of being left behind, but we see this road less traveled as the more exciting and fruitful one for our community. So they said they have a little where we stand part on this website. It says,
Sure.
no generative AI. We deeply respect your hard-earned skills. Your work belongs to you. We do not have access to your art by design. We take pride in privacy. Your activity is not tracked in our apps. So that is all they have. They say that they're not. They don't really say they're not ever going to make it. They just say they don't like generative AI.
I think they don't like the sort of the hype of it, right? So I think I think you and I have joked about the hype cycle, for which sort of what is in general the generative AI kind of conversation, right? And I guess he posted it on X.
Yeah, on X, there's a video. Is this the CEO?
That's the CEO, or
yeah.
At least
James Kuda put this, and he says that I'm trying to see. Looking at the subtitles, he says he hates generative AI in this video.
He says
and he doesn't like
effing hates.
He effing hates. Yeah. And we're not going to wait. What does it say here? It says they're not going to introduce any generative AI. So that's their plan.
I guess. Well, here's the thing that we have to keep in mind about when we talk about AI, right? Like it's a very broad.
Well, right. They're saying generative AI to be real explicit.
And I think even to be more specific about that, right? Like what is in context of like what would you put into a Procreate product with generative AI, right? So like maybe, for example, like something similar to like what they do with Google's photo imaging thing, where like you can I guess no, not even, right? So like the autofill example would be like the default answer of like
any of these tools, like the Adobe has that background fill thing.
Yeah.
You can like expand the background. That generates stuff. And Google just released their Pixel phones, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a big part of their presentation was possibly one of the worst things I've ever seen, which was they were showing off how you can use their tools to manipulate your photos and like add things in there that weren't there by generating them, like put balloons there and whatever and change the scene in the background, and it's like I hated every moment of that because I'm on two minds of this with Procreate, right? Like I totally I think I'm on board with hating generative AI in a lot of ways, but I also have used it in places and they've acknowledged that it has utility, right? I'm not a professional artist or anything, but what in my space of photography, the idea that people that Google is pushing this idea in their keynote or whatever that I saw, that you could take your photo and somehow, in my opinion, made it worse, but they think they're making it better by using these tools to like change the background or like insert a person into a group shot. That was one of them too, where they have this mechanism where you can take a photo and then you can kind of like stand. It'll like overlay. I think you stand in the right spot and then it combines the two photos into one, and you're creating completely fictional photos that look like they're real. And like I have a problem with that because photos, the level of manipulation of a photo, it depends on a lot of factors and what it's. But if you're trying to show like their examples, like a photo of a person or a group of people at a particular place and time, my assumption up until the present day was that really happened. But now people are potentially just going to manipulate their images. That's what Google thinks is a good use of this technology, to manipulate images that they have of things that really happened. Like, how is that a useful? I don't see why that's a good thing or useful. But on the other side of things, as I said before, I've used this to generate like stupid graphics for like thumbnails and things. Stuff you would never believe was made by an artist. Stuff that is just there to like fill up space. And I don't think that's too bad. But
I mean, you and I have we have talked about this before,
yeah.
right? Aaron, I don't know if you were about to say something.
I don't think it needs to be in every single app. So especially if it's not going to be at the operating system level anyway. Now, pretty much. Google, Apple, everybody's putting it in their, mobile OS. So you can do the same dumb whatever. Stick a
but you'll
cat
be
in every photo.
Tell us how you really feel, Aaron.
I mean, but also I see Procreate's doing this kind of as a marketing thing because they're saying, like they say in their X post here, we're never going there. Creativity is made, not generated. That's what they're saying. That's like their phrase. And it's kind of like when Apple came out and said, we're like privacy first. We're all about privacy. They made it part of their marketing message. So I think Procreate is betting on two things: that one, there's enough of a market of people that see the lack of these tools as an actual feature, as a positive. And two, that their competitors are not going to create compelling enough experiences to attract enough of, the potential or existing customers that Procreate has. Because like they're trying to niche, and the niche they're choosing is like people that don't like generative AI, I guess, and want to use Procreate. Like, what's the main competitor for Procreate? Because I don't use it much. It's that drawing app, right? That's our main thing. Is that like the one you use to make illustrations?
Well, it's weird because like Procreate kind of stands on its own as sort of like a concept. It's like it's an all-purpose drawing app.
Yeah, so right. I've used it. It's cool.
When you think of it more, and it's weird because like
they have a few.
It's not something that you would consider using for like if you are using it, your intention is to draw. Like, and for lack of a better word, like part of the beauty about having it in like an iPad specific only app is like with the pencil being a prominent component of it,
right.
was like this is really targeted to kind of like artists who like to draw. Like your goal,
right.
your whole experience is focused around drawing and creating this sort of like self-expression, for lack of a better word.
Right.
And so there's an intentionality there that is a little more process oriented. You're focused a lot on exploring the process of creating something versus you just going, I'm just going to enter what I want, get the results, lickety split, and then, call it a day.
Yeah.
And I think there is a,
but
I think there's a lack of, I think, I guess the way I look at it is much more like there is a misunderstanding in terms of like when you create something, it is not, the important thing is not necessarily the results in this sort of like when you're making something. The important thing is the process of making it, the intentionality, the context. And I think that when you think about generative AI, there's an intention to sort of shortcut that. And in doing so, you don't understand how it was created in the first place. So you can never really repeat the process. You just hope that the AI could do it for you.
Yeah, because by the very nature of the technology, it is not repeatable. Like you can't get the same exact output out every time. That's on purpose.
Right. And so you spend a lot of the people I'm sorry, we're about to say something, Aaron?
No, go ahead.
So the people that like talk about, I can create all these great effects and great things, and this speeds up my process, has already understood the process, and they're just doing a new process that takes up almost as much time and arguably getting better results. And that depends, but everybody is not going to be able to do that.
Yeah, but I mean, part of this, I think, it comes down to what they define as generative AI, because isn't one of their products like this animation tool?
Yes.
And it's like, is it generative AI if I have an asset and then your tool generates frames for it? And, like, could you use generative AI systems to generate different modifications of something I entered? Like, would that be against their standard? Like, the problem I have with this, not really a problem, it's I lack of clarity on what they mean, because their page is not clear exactly. Like if you're going to say we're not going to use generative AI, you need to define very carefully what you mean, because otherwise you're setting yourself up for artificially limiting your product potentially, depending on what you mean by it, and also like charges of hypocrisy when you do put something in which to you don't think actually is meeting what you think is harmful generative AI, but other people might think it does. So I feel like they might want to consider being really, really explicit about specifically what they mean, because I don't see that on the page unless I'm missing it somewhere. And so I'm not 100% sure what they mean when they just say generative AI. Kind of like we all know kind of what they mean. Like, okay, if I put some text in and it generates like, you know, if I say give me like, I don't know, give me a bouncing orange ball. That's a callback, people. And and then it'll give me like a bouncing ball. Like that's bad, right? I guess because that's generative AI. That's something they wouldn't want to do. But as I said, what about something that's like a keyframe assistant? Is that generative AI? Is
like you and I had talked about like what it would take, for example, to build a model that can take your art and then say, okay, I want to have like maybe 3 keyframes, right? So like I want to like if I want to, for really crude example, I have a character that is like in an idle pose. Let's say it's a Street Fighter character,
right?
In an idle pose, and then I want him to like have a midway frame of him about to punch somebody,
right?
And then a final frame, and then I want to do the in betweens of like maybe like 2 or 3 frames in between those just to see.
Yeah, and I mean, what about the tools that like you give it like a still image, and it turns into like a video image, or turns into like a 3D look version, turns into some other art style. Like, is that generative AI? I mean, I think it is, right? That would probably be something to be against. I just don't know what they mean.
The way I kind of look at it in general, not to be vaguely punny about it, but anything that goes back to, say, a service like OpenAI or something like that does a lot of the processing in the cloud, which actually I think is kind of smart not to do, because there's a cost to that. And whether or not the juice is worth that squeeze of saying, okay, like, do we invest time, money, and to get our brand equity reduced because we already committed to this line, and now go back because like we're doing it for like bespoke scenarios. I don't know. I'm up in the air about. I'm the same with you in terms of being very like. It almost felt weird that they needed to like have this page in the first place, right? Like,
well,
there must have been.
I think it's somewhat marketing, too, because
there must have been
make
such.
A big deal?
Yeah, there must have been such
pressure on them.
Yeah, some pressure from somewhere.
Well, everywhere, everywhere. As Aaron said, it's like it's in everything. I can't stand it either. It's everywhere, shoved in the apps that you don't need it in, you don't want it in. It has no benefit to you. It's a giant pain in the butt. It's annoying. It's annoying because it's a fad, and it's being just shoved in your face. And I like, just leave me alone. Like, okay, here's one of the best example of this is Meta and Facebook. You guys don't use Facebook, but I still have to use Facebook or stuff. And they put the most annoying, obnoxious, completely useless piece of garbage AI in there. And not only they put it in there, but they put it in the search box. So you can't escape it. You constantly are activating it when you don't want to, and you just want to search for shit. And then you can't even delete it. You can ask it how to delete it, how to delete the conversations, and it will tell you information that is wrong. It will tell you to go to settings that don't exist. There is no way that I can tell to remove it, to turn it off, to make sure it's not saving anything I put in there. And it's always being accidentally activated, and there's just no settings for just getting rid of it. That is the epitome of obnoxiousness. Shoving it in your face in one of the most heavily used UI elements in your entire application. That's like evil, okay? That's like borderline evil. And I don't even have a problem with Meta as a company generally, but that's like the most obnoxious thing I've ever seen them do. And it's super annoying. And so I'm totally against that kind of thing. Then on the other hand, I'll give you a positive example of this generative AI. It's not really generative AI, I guess. It's LLMs. So I don't know if they counted. They're not talking about generative AI. So I'm talking more about LLMs right now. But the Food Noms app has a wonderful use of an LLM. You have a button that you can ask the AI. You can put in a description of food, like you can't find in their database. It's your like I put it in for this beer that I was drinking tonight while we're drinking this. I'm like 6% beer, blah blah blah. I put in some descriptors. I want an estimate of the calorie count because I'm tracking my calories, and I say ask the AI and it gives me an answer, and it seems reasonable enough. So I say okay, and I use that all the time for food items that I don't have an accurate information because I just need a ballpark. It's good enough, and it's fast, and it works. Wonderful use of this technology, unobtrusive, makes my life better. Actually makes it easier for me to use the application, so I use it more often. So I'm even more willing to pay them the fee than I do. And Meta is the complete opposite. It makes me like not want to use their product because I just don't want to like touch the search bar anymore because it's gonna do something and start talking to me and like annoying me and it won't shut up and it just keeps chatting and it can't delete it and it's everywhere. So there you go. And so I think when we're talking about generative AI, I'm thinking the Procreate are more against that. Like they say here in the first sentence, they're saying it's built on a foundation of theft, a barren future. I think what they're thinking of is the most egregious examples of generative AI where you're generating movies, clips, and all images from text, and you're like passing it off as artwork, and that's all built on data that was like scraped from the internet, and so they consider that theft. And
it is. It feels like what's kind of funny about it with generative AI
they're probably
in
not
general.
fans of Grok too.
Probably not. Well, I mean,
Flux.
it feels the same. Yeah, Flux Flux is basically the thing that runs Grok, but it feels like when you see it, there's a weird smell or a weird tell about it. Like about generative AI.
Some of it's getting very realistic,
I'll grant it that, but like there is
it's still,
I don't know how to describe it, but it's like
you can still tell. Even the most realistic ones, I'm like, there's something off about that.
Yeah, and I guess part of it is like the cynicism begins to kick in, right? It's like, can I trust any of these photos or any images? And
right.
And so now it also creates sort of this.
Yeah, there's the trust angle. If you're passing off a photo, like I had my problem with the Google one, the Pixel demo is if you're passing off a photo of some and you've heavily modified with these tools as if it was a real thing that happened, like I have a problem with that. If you're not clear that this is a manipulated photo, if you're saying, oh, this actually happened, it really was like I really was on a hot air balloon when in fact you were like standing in a field or something, like something egregious like that. Now you're just lying through your photo, and it's not for artistic reasons. You're just like, you know what I mean? Like it's not a part of a work of art or something.
One of the things that I noticed, right? Yeah. So like the NBC Olympics, their YouTube channel that had a thumbnail. We talked about this, I think, but like they had a thumbnail, and you can tell it was AI generated because the hands were all goofy looking. I mean, it looks like one of these like it was an art piece.
That's gotten better. The hands.
Yeah, well, clearly they weren't using the right model.
They were using like the Grok 2.
Yeah, it looked like a big fist, but like the fist was all goofy looking. It wasn't. It was. It looked like something from like the Soviet era.
Were they doing that? Were they doing that because they had to make a whole bunch of thumbnails really fast?
Yeah. I mean, I get why. It just like the funny thing is, so it's based off of some live, like an actual athlete or whatever, and that's fine, right? Like, I don't care, but when I looked at the comments, I was just kind of curious because you could tell it's AI art. And I was like, okay, so what's the feedback on that? Because inevitably, nobody cared about what the story of the video was. Everybody was just like, ew, AI art, that sucked.
Yeah, I mean, how much of that is real?
These are like common known. They could be nobody, and they could be bots too. But like the hilarious part is like the point is like there is a general, like I get a general vibe, right?
Yeah, there's definitely there's like a, I don't know, there's either vibe shift on this stuff or there's a really vocal anti-generative AI minority that is super. And the thing is, you gotta always remember, like sometimes these kind of movements, pro or against stuff, you're doing it because you get social capital for taking that stance, taking the quote unquote right stance on it. I see a lot of that happening. Like people are moralizing about stuff, and because it gets them,
I'll
social capital with their in
I'll
groups.
s- I'll s- I'll say it like this because I'm not one way or
Not the
the other
Procreate's
about it,
doing
to be
that.
honest. I mean, I'm clearly like the
I mean, like we're I
anti-generative
think
AI, but
yeah.
I don't necessarily like say you do you, right? The it is to me the way I look at it is much more like when I see it, I almost immediately in my mind disregard it, if
What,
that
anything
makes
generative
sense.
AI based?
Yeah, I
Yeah, I
almost
think a
go,
lot of people do.
eh,
Yeah,
like that's low.
but
That's low effort.
if it if
That is
it's gotten better though, so it's like, and
like
it's
I
not
said.
always low effort. It's not always low
It
effort. I
doesn't.
mean,
Sure, it's not always low effort, but 95% of the time, it's low effort.
there was a guy, I can't remember the name. I saw some like mini documentary thing about him. Maybe you showed it to me. I don't know. It was a guy who I think he used what's that really good AI image generator? You have to go through like Discord.
Oh, Midjourney.
Midjourney. I think he was a Midjourney guy, and I saw him talk about the process of like it's laborious
Hmm.
prompting and going and taking the images and feeding it back in, and
Sure.
it was like this really long thing, and he would create these amazing things on the that would come out of it, and you're like, is that art? Is that not art? Because he's putting a lot of work in of some sort, but it's not the
Yeah.
same kind of sort. So it's like the that's the issue with all this stuff. So for in Procreate's case, like I think they're taking a stance that may that they at least believe makes sense for their products, for their view on it, for their customers, and that's fine. But my question is this a glimpse of a larger like vibe shift, that there's going to be a larger pushback? Should
Mm.
everybody is like, if you, are you is there going to come a point where Adobe is like punished for having this in there? Or is this just like it's just an example of a smaller company picking a niche that is opposed to the current prevailing trend of the big tech companies? And also, probably, I'm going to believe them when they say it's in line with their ethical view on it too. So I don't know. Is there a bigger vibe shift happening?
I guess it's a fair question. I don't know, Aaron, if you've noticed any of it. I mean,
I just try to stay out of it.
from a creative community
yeah.
point of view, like there is definitely like a tension of like, like the pros and the pro and the cons of it.
Yeah.
Like it's definitely not like everyone's anti or pro this. I think it's more like you look at it with a little bit of like everyone looks at like AI in general with a little bit of a nervous eye, because
I
especially
think so.
when you have like people at the top, like executives, like, we're going to AI everything. We're going to, like they're looking at the dollar signs of like, okay, we can get rid of these people.
Yeah, that's not going to work. But I think there
I
is
know,
something
but
to be concerned about. The potential that IP theft is involved, because the idea of whether it's theft or not is a debatable thing, and it's mostly, I think, a legal issue that will be resolved eventually. I think it's going to be resolved in the side of it not being theft, honestly, because that's typically how this kind of stuff goes, because the technology is so widespread and useful for people. But however that turns out, that's going to be like a legal thing that courts are going to go through. The thing I think, as part of their announcement, Procreate's announcement, that really like dings with me is a barren future part. And the same thing with LLMs. If you use these tools and put out onto the internet stuff made with them, and then that stuff gets used to train the models, it's going to inevitably cause the models to collapse or get worse. Like you can't. I think it's highly likely that you would end up with just with homogenization of language, or in generative AI case for images, a homogenization of like quote unquote artistic, sensibility or aesthetics of things. Like we already have a big enough problem with that. Like every corporate ad looks the same. Everybody uses the same stupid goofy icons, the same goofy like colorful like pastel colored people and stuff like that. Remember that was like a phase, if it's not still going on, where everybody used the same kind of iconography. Like now imagine that's accelerated because you're making the junky output even faster. What if the output doesn't even look like junk? It's just that it all just starts like looking more samey. I don't know. Or maybe we have a future of more variety, because one of the things you can do with this stuff is get radically different aesthetic themes out of these things. Like you can get radically different looking stuff.
the way I look
the
at it
same
is like
prompt.
you will get really good, interesting outputs. I'm not going to debate
For
that,
now.
but
Until the
but it
models
takes
collapse.
it's going to take a really like somebody that already knows how to make good stuff. Like it takes a very distinct eye. Otherwise, yes, 95%, and I would even argue 99% of the time, you are going to get junk. And
Yeah.
because
I mean, I do. I
it
get
just
junk when I use the stuff. I mean,
right.
and so I guess for
And that's fine.
Procreate,
Like
in Procreate's case, their customers primarily, you think, are not like me. They're people who are much
no.
more artistically inclined, right? So
Yeah.
that makes so this move, I think, just looking at it right now, the little that they released about this makes a
Mhm.
lot of sense to me. Why they would take this stance? I think it's probably much more in alignment with the majority of their customer base than
It
an
also
opposite
frees
stance
up
would be.
it sort of frees up. I think there's a practical reason too, right? Because it
Okay,
frees
yeah,
up like a couple things, right? It frees up like resources to focus. Like we don't have to focus on this, right?
yeah.
Like
I bet it is
the
resource
market
intensive.
will the market like we're not. To me, I would not feel confident. Like if I integrated generative AI in any of this stuff, am I the target of potential these frivolous lawsuits as we can
That's a
call
really
them,
good
right?
point.
Right? Like, and would I be like, we have a very valid product right now that
Yeah,
we already still have issues we need to resolve, right? Like we
yeah,
need to like get like I think like Procreate Dreams with their animation tool still needed still we're missing a lot of these like basic sort of concepts, and its UI flow was a little goofy to start with. And I think recently they've just begun to like refine it.
yeah.
So now it feels better at the start. Um and I think that they have a lot of things that they're trying to like fine tune. So like to have to be distracted with generative AI that they themselves don't know. Like,
Right.
like having domain knowledge is important, right? Like even
Yeah. I
to
mean,
know whether it's useful.
even assuming they do, that you pointed out that you'd be worried about the legal issues of it. I think that is probably a bigger concern with the generative
Mhm.
image AI stuff because I mean, if you saw X recently with the Grok 2 release, where you could
Oh,
just
geez.
generate anything and it was crazy and hilarious. And I mean, I thought but the IP holders may not think it's as hilarious as I do or you might. So, that does that is
I just
something I
looked
would
at
be
them and
concerned
I was
about as
like,
a company.
oh, somebody's getting sued. That's how I looked at it. If they weren't even localized models of any kind, right? That I knew and I had vetted, right? Like I wouldn't want to touch it because like especially if there was any services that have to hit the cloud, like I'm sorry, the Asian in me is like I'm not paying a couple cents.
See, we have to think about this because as Apple Intelligence comes online and this stuff becomes integrated in the operating system and then therefore available within apps in different ways,
Sure.
people
Yeah.
are going to expect it to be there and use it in different ways. Apple at least is taking a very cautious approach to this stuff, like with the image generation. It's no one will mistake that as realistic, and that's partially on purpose and partially a
Mhm.
result of the limitations of the models and
Yep.
running it on your local hardware for the most part is what I think
Right.
they're doing it. But we're all going to have to think about to what extent are we okay using these tools or integrating them in our products? Because I don't think there's like a universally correct answer now, and I think the giant companies like Adobe are going full speed ahead on pushing this stuff into their products. Then you got companies like Procreate who are trying to they have the opposite approach. They don't want it near their products and for good reasons. And then there's
Well,
like the rest of us. Like we're probably somewhere in the middle.
right. So like I think like you take a look at like a Clip Studio or like
Yeah.
any of these other like I don't know if Affinity or any of those other sort of like alternative products that to Adobe are doing anything with AI. I know they've like talked and sort of dipped their toes. I think
Yeah.
it's a fair expectation to just be willing to dip your toes into it, but not necessarily go full blown like Adobe did. And I don't think they really got too much heat on it, but I do wonder, like, you know, like they say, oh, you know, we only have these models against our own licensed, um, stock photos or whatever. Well, in this case, like one of the things that I was a little bit like my sort of like perked my spidey senses was like, yeah, you say that because you own what do they own? That what's their stock? what's their Adobe stock?
Yeah.
I forget the name of it. I'm like, how many of those people that are selling their photos on your platform know that you
Oh,
you trained against their stuff?
that is a whole thing in the photography community because some years ago, stock photography was a way to make money in photography.
Mhm.
There's some successful photographers like ones on YouTube I watch that made some money back in the day on that. So their stock photos, they pop up, and the deal is that stuff now being used to train? I mean, because at the time they did it, the stuff didn't exist. I don't know what the contracts they signed said that could be done with it, and
Right.
and now it's being used to train stuff and then generate images that might be very eerily similar to the stock photos, and so like stock photography is one of the things that generative AI is completely obliterating the value
Yeah.
of. Like already the value of stock photography was in the toilet. It was very low because there was so much of it. But now it's like you can just bespoke create the scene you want with these tools. At least that's the idea. So you don't need any stock photography. But the only reason you have the ability to do that is because of all the stock photography that came before. And yet all
Yeah.
those photographers don't get compensation, I think. But I don't know the details. I don't think they get compensation for the fact that their products may have been used to train. So
I mean, there is something to be said about this idea. Like maybe this can spark. I don't want to use the word revolution, but a new generation of sort of like, okay, like services and platforms that would be like, okay, your thing is your thing. We don't own it. We don't do anything to it. We don't
yeah, we
like
don't do anything
make
to it.
money off of it. We have a subscription service that you pay, reasonable amount of money for. Free idea, Mike Zornick.
Yeah.
That
No,
that
no generative AI. Yeah, I think you're right.
yeah,
I mean, it's like
and
these companies are going to become people. Companies are going to want who want to differentiate themselves in this strange market with generative AI. I think a lot of them are going to be like Procreate, and they're going to say, you know what? Here's the deal. We're not going
because
to do any of this stuff. So pick us if you don't want to deal with this stuff.
DeviantArt was like that, or was not like that, and said, hey, and that was a huge art community of people who just
They
like
were not like that. They were big on the
they
generative
said
AI.
they said, you know what, we're gonna have our things trained on generative AI, and
Oh, okay.
so I forgot how
I
that
didn't know that
worked.
because I used to check out DeviantArt for like get wallpapers and stuff from them. I think.
Yeah, so that they are like, nope, we're gonna train our stuff, train on your stuff, and you can't do anything
Oh,
about it. And so
oh
like
man,
there's this like
that's not cool.
massive like middle finger to that community, and at least that's what it felt like for a lot of them. So that's the thing, right? Like even like Marcus Bradley or Brownlee
Brownlee, yeah.
is not immune to that. I think initially he didn't care so deeply, but then when it hits him, it's like, oh, like you can tell like he sort of felt a certain way.
Which thing are we referring to?
The YouTube summary, I think it was like I
The
forgot.
summaries
It
of
was like
the
the
summarization.
metadata and all the like they trained on that metadata. I
Oh,
forgot what service did that.
supposedly anyway. I don't know the details how that turned out, but yeah, the idea was that like seemed like the video like the
The videos
captioning
metadata, yeah, like
because
got
they I think Marcus, I think MKBHD, they do translations or something, or they do like
yeah,
bespoke captioning. They don't just do the machine stuff.
right.
I
So
think
they
so.
so
Yeah.
they pay people
Yeah,
real
exactly. They
money.
paid money, and then it gets used to improve the, and and again, I think there's a variety of perspectives on this that are
Sure.
defensible, all the way from like the Procreate side, like we're not going to deal with this, and we're going to not have this in our products, anything, to actually, I think there's some defense to having being like the Adobe position where we're gonna use this, and I think there's a whole gray area in between. And a lot of
Mhm.
it, of course, just comes down to the details, like the details of the model and where the training data came from and how it's being used and what you're using it for. And it's like very
Like
complicated.
if I'm an indie developer, or one of the things that frustrates me, especially in the corporate setting, is like there's a lack of like a true lack of like it feels like it's the solution looking for a problem situation again, which
I
generally
literally
seems to
said
be
that
the
to
bottom.
somebody once, to a consultant once. It was about um
Like I
like a
don't
Microsoft
I
product.
swear it's like a lizard brain thing, but
A
it's
solution
like
that
it's
starts
the
with a
same.
problem. That's what a lot of generative AI is. I agree with you.
Yeah, it's like yes, generative AI has valid usage and is quite convenient when used properly, but
But you know, modifying your
It
photos
doesn't
to make
need
it
to be
look
used
like
for everything.
yeah,
Yeah,
right, exactly. Like Meta, please take it out of your stupid of Facebook, making everything worse.
Or
Yeah,
Google search.
okay, Google search.
Is
You
it
know,
in
I have
Google
not
search?
seen it in Google search, but that's probably because I have cookies.
Yeah, it
off
just
and-
shows up at the top now of
Oh,
Google
really?
search. Just like
Yeah,
a bunch of
yeah.
AI generated nonsense.
I've heard people say they use like LLMs. They like it because it's like a because sometimes it can be like a search engine just gives you the right answer you're looking for, and without having to go to a page or something. And I guess people like it for that, and so the search engines are like, oh crap, we should just do that at the top of our search results so that we don't get left behind. But then the problem is sometimes it just gives you completely wrong stuff, maybe very often, and then you're stuck with like, memes will never go away about putting glue in your pizza or whatever.
Like I asked it one time, Copilot one time, just recently actually, to like give me a way to like make a passcode UI, and it gives me the most vanilla, basic, like crappy version, and
Of
like,
course.
and I had to like tear it all out because I was like, okay, this does some things okay, but like 50% of it, I could have just written the code, like having ripped out 50% of it already. I was like, I should I should just written the code myself. It just would have been done better myself because
I saw a video.
I'm more confident in myself.
Yeah, I saw a video about TDD the other day. I think I linked it. I don't know if we linked it in our podcast or I just sent it to you. Anyway, I saw a video and it was part of it he was talking about where you use something like Copilot in the TDD thing. So if you were using proper TDD, you could have used the Copilot as part of that process to make little snippets of code,
Sure.
and because you were running like, you were using the TDD, principles, you were designing your features as you were going and making sure they were working and not breaking. So it's in how you use these tools.
You can have TDD write your tests that'll be crappy, outdated tests.
No, see, we should have a whole thing on TDD because I think people just misunderstand it, what it is, because you're not, because if you're doing it the way it was originally described, you should not end up with fragile tests because you're testing behaviors, not like specific code interface. It's a whole.
You keep trying, Steve. I don't think you're ever going to convince Kotaro.
I know, but I mean, it's not like I'm doing it all the time either. But that's mostly because I find that the tooling on the stuff I'm using is hard to use.
I you know what I need? I need a project, and I mean like a work project, not a side project.
No, you do not want to start with a work project because it'll slow you down at first because you won't know how to do it right. So it's like you might not want to do it with a work project at first. Depends on how big the project is, how much room you have. You want to start, small. Or if you have somebody, because you're a big company, you probably have people that do TDD, have some mentor. Because, I mean, last time, as I told you a long time ago, since I did it all the time, and it was with Perl, and so it was a very different world because you kind of needed to write tests for stuff.
I feel like I'm a better converter to non-TDD than necessarily a converter.
One of the things about it, I know we have to wrap this up. One of the issues is people use the word unit tests, but they're not unit tests. Unit tests are technically not the same thing as the developer tests you make in TDD. It's a whole thing. So we're not going to get into it now, but we're going to get into something else, which we're not.
True, proper code. Yeah, you're doing 100% code. Was it code coverage? You're doing it wrong.
I mean, yeah, the code coverage is a whole other thing. Like these debates are endless, and a lot of it I think comes down to people being, I don't know, overly zealous, and also, frankly, not understanding what they're talking about half the time. Like, it really would help if people would just go and read the original materials where stuff comes from, and then they could see where they are misunderstanding. I see that a lot, where it's like if you just go look it up in the actual original book where the terms came from or something, the ideas came from, like, oh, they didn't. That's actually not at all what the character says.
I try to learn, with ChatGPT, and I let ChatGPT tell me.
I know a lot of people do that. That's kind of the problem, isn't it? It's like it's trained on a whole bunch of misunderstandings of the concept you're researching. You're kind of in trouble. So cool. I think we're way over time, so we're probably we have to wrap this thing up.
Let me wrap this thing up with a outro, if you will. There we go with transitions. So that's all we have for today. You can learn more about Philly Cocoa at phillycocoa.org. There you'll find links to our Slack group, meetup schedule, and contact info. If you're feeling generous, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Spotify, or whatever your podcast platform of choice is, and share us with all your developer friends. Yeah, sorry, I'm off here. And one more thing, I'm going to go back until I'm blue in the face, but azamsharp.school. It's a good friend, Azam Muhammad, or Muhammad Azam, actually. He is a iOS. Well, he teaches a lot of. How do I describe him? He teaches iOS, the iOS platform, or Apple development platform, I should say. Provides a lot of insight of how to build good quality apps. He can also teach you very specific, bespoke frameworks and experiences. So he has a YouTube channel. He has courses that he gives that you can purchase, and he has workshops. And right now he has quite a few workshops lined up, actually. So his recent one, it will be in September 7th. Intro to Swift server-side Swift using Vapor. He has another one on the 28th, Swift Data Fundamentals. I think I need to get on that.
Oh, wow.
Oh, here you go. October 12th. Intro to Testing in iOS.
There you go. That's what we need.
Yeah, that's the one I need. And another one that's actually interesting, October 26th. Man, this guy is like a machine.
I don't know how he finds the time. He's like a full-time job and a family, doesn't he? I don't know how he does it.
Right. And
he
sometimes he's out of power. He's out of power.
Well, now he has power. He lives in Houston. I don't know how he does anything. He lives in the worst city in the country, apparently, according to Asam's Twitter feed.
Yeah. Intro to one more, which is October 26th. Intro to Superbase. Superbase.
I really got to get on the board the Superbase train. I got to get on board this.
The new hotness, as a if maybe Firebase is not your thing.
I don't want to use Firebase because I do not like the Google backends. I don't want to use Google for this stuff.
This apparently is a up and coming alternative. So definitely worth the shot of checking out. I think he has some kind of intros to that in his YouTube channel, which I highly recommend you like and subscribe.
Yeah, and this is not like an ad or an endorsement. He doesn't have no. We do this. We just do it on our own volition. We're not getting paid or anything like that. So
we just love his work.
And if you want to check him out, we'll put the link in the show notes to azamsharp.school. Again, we get no remuneration for this. We're not being paid. He didn't ask us to do this. We just like Azam a lot. So he gets free ads, free mentions on our podcast here.
Indeed. So
because he's great. I learned so much from him too. That's the thing. I personally learned a lot from his free stuff and some of his courses before he moved to this website. So
actually, on just as a side, part of where when I was trying to learn up Swift UI, especially the newer parts, as it was 3 or 4, that's how he got on my radar.
I suspect that Azam may be a robot from the future because of his output. I don't know how he does it.
Shout out to you, Azam.
Yeah.
Till next
you're
time.
listening while he's swimming or something, right?
Yes, listening while you're swimming. Don't drown.
Yeah.
Till next time. Good luck on your own developer journey. We will cheer for you always.
The most annoying, obnoxious, completely useless piece of garbage